and I'm from Canva Design School. I'll be monitoring the chat and the Q&A panel, and we'll answer a few questions during the session, as well as raise some live with Laura after each design. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Laura to the Design Makeover show.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura and I'm a senior designer here at Canva. I've got over 10 years of experience working in design and specialise in digital, social, animation and illustration. I've worked with global clients on projects of all sizes and I enjoy helping people get the most they can out of design. Today I'll be making over 2 designs submitted by the Canva community, the Design Circle. Thank you to everyone for sharing all of your designs. I'm so excited to show you how easy it is to design in Canva. We'll be focusing today on hierarchy, balance and alignment. There are designs we'll be working on today coming from Mervane Estado. The first design is an Instagram post advertising a new Nike sneaker, and design 2 comes from Mervane Estado as well and is an Instagram post advertising a food product.
If you'd like to attend our future design makeovers live and get a chance to ask questions to our design experts, you can sign up to any of our live events via Design School events available at this link, which I'll post in the chat.
So moving on to our first design. This design comes from Mervane Estado and it's an Instagram post. Let's take a closer look. What I love about this design, overall, I think the energy is amazing. It's very dynamic. He's chosen a really energetic typeface for the headline and for the subhead, which pairs really well for a design talking about exercise wear. You want a lot of energy, and I think the whole thing is very dynamic. The first thing I'm going to look at is hierarchy and what we want to focus on first. I would say that once we start to have a closer look, I'm not exactly sure where my eyes want to focus on first. So the first thing I want to do is decide that I think we might want to have this piece of information as the most important and this piece of information as the second most important. So I'm going to bring these up in scale. So notice this first. I'm going to bring all of this down in scale. That's going to feel a little bit better already. We read this first, and then as we're looking, we continue and read the secondary information here. The next thing I'm going to focus on, this button here, jumps out at me as being a little bit different to the rest of the style. So I'm going to go into the Elements tab here and see if there's something a bit better. So this kind of shape, I think, matches what's happening already really well. So I'm going to replace this here. I'll match the color that we have up here with the logo, and I might just increase the contrast on the button here. So that's starting to feel a little bit more cohesive. So I think what is fighting next for me is this backdrop here. I really like it. I think it creates a lot of energy. So I do want to keep it in, but I might be able to just drop it back a little bit. I'll drop it back a little bit, and I might actually use the same color as the shapes we've got going on. So it can be quite subtle. Not everything needs to be dominant, I think is the consideration. So you can have some elements in there that do actually add to the overall picture, but you might not even necessarily recognize that it's there. Okay, that's going to feel a bit nicer. I think this, the shoe is a little bit dark. I'm losing some of the details. So I'm just going to do a quick edit here and bring up the brightness a little bit. And then the other thing I'm going to start looking at is some of the little details. I think that less is more a lot of the time. So these areas here probably aren't actually adding to the design, and especially in social media, I think you need to be as simple as possible, because people are scrolling through, you kind of only have a second to capture people's attention. So if things are overly busy, so I think we can probably do away with those, and it's not actually taking away from the design. We're letting the viewer focus on the shoe and the headline, which is the most important stuff. These I don't mind these too much, but I think I'm gonna see what it looks like without it, and I think that's okay as well. Other benefit of designing on social media is you don't actually have to put everything in the post because you've got post copy as well. So it's really important to consider what you want to keep in your post, which is the most visual stuff. So the shoe, the headline, the font, all of this stuff is really good for creating impact, a nice visual impact when people are scrolling through. Some of this secondary information like the phone number and the address probably actually don't need to be in the design. They could probably actually go into the post copy as secondary information. So we can get rid of that, I think, move that out. And now we're starting to have a nice clean design, I think. So next, I'm just going to see what we can do to align everything nicely. So it's really easy to create guides in Canva as well. I think I'll just get the position out of this one. And then if you drag in from the ruler on the side, you get a nice set of guides here. One trick I use as well is hitting the rectangle, hitting R on your keyboard to bring up a rectangle, making it, which will bring up a square, bringing it to the margin and then duplicating it around and then dragging my guides in so that I've got a nice even border on the outside to line everything up to. So now that we've done this, bring this down to fit, bring this down to fit, there. Bring this in as well. That's looking pretty good. I might actually make this red so that this little section here kind of ties in nicely together. Maybe the last little tweak I'll make is there's quite a lot of different fonts going on. The general rule is to have 2 fonts in one design. You can obviously push that if you like, and you can do, if to get around it, you can use different weights of the same font. But I think because this headline is so styled and there's a serif font here, I think a sans serif font is going to be a bit more of a modern feel that matches the rest of the design. So I'm going to see how that looks. Yeah, I think that feels nice and clean. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think we've stripped back to the most important information, created some nice hierarchy. And now the shoe jumps out. We've got nice breathing space around that. And then the rest of the information flows on. So yeah, that's quite good. I'm going to show you how easy it is as well. I might try and push it even more, especially having a Nike shoe. I think they tend to use a lot of bold colors. Exercise gear especially uses a lot of really bold colors. So I'm going to start doing some experiments here and seeing what it would look like. This is something often I'll do in Canva. I'll just keep duplicating the design and trying out different color palettes until I get something I like. Might make that a really contrasty red as well to match the shoe. And then we're losing this a little bit on that purple, so I'm just going to change the color of that as well to make it nice and clean. And we've still got our texture in the background. I'm going to reverse that out as well. Make that the purple. Bring that up a little bit. Cool. So yeah, I think that's working pretty well. Yeah, definitely happy with that. So I think that's it for our first design. Knocked back this pattern here, which was really nice, but just taking a little bit too much focus. So we've made that really subtle in the background. Taken out these little extra details that I think just cluttered a little bit, even though they are quite nice. Yeah, simplified some of this information, which we can put into the post copy, and then just aligned everything nicely. And just to see as well, here's a more extreme example of where we really pushed the design even further and tried out some new color palettes. Yeah, are there any questions for this design?
Yep, so we have one question from Shoe Limit, who's asked whether it would be better to have the shoe more dominant. So what was your thinking around the size of the shoe?
You can make the shoe dominant in more ways than one. So that's a really important thing to consider when you're looking at hierarchy. So scale is obviously one. but contrast is another one. So especially I think on this one, you can see once the shoe is on the lighter color, it pops a lot. So you don't need to make it necessarily bigger for it to have more impact. You can play around with other elements. And I think even removing some of these extra elements, it also creates more hierarchy and lets the shoe pop more. So there's lots of different ways you can create focus. I think this is showing like, yeah, just a few of them.
Yep, that looks great. That's all the questions we've got for this design. So you can move on to the next one.
Great. So this design here we have by Mervine Estado. It's another Instagram post, and this time we're advertising a sandwich. So we can take some similar approaches, but I'm going to show you what we've done differently this time. Here we have the Instagram post. And what I love about this design as well is it's quite playful. I like the overall layout. I like the choice and font here. I think it pairs really nicely with a food product, which you want people to associate with a natural handcrafted feel. I think the design could work really well as a poster in the store as well. Like I can see it being really easily applied to a bunch of things. So the first thing I'm going to look at here as well is the color again. I think we can probably do a similar thing. We can create a little bit more contrast, help make the product pop. So the sandwich here is the hero. So I'll just duplicate this. I think this color is quite good, like the dark red color does work. But I think we can increase the contrast even more. So maybe something up there. And already the sandwich is popping out quite nicely. And then again, I think the CTA, this button here, jumps out at being a little bit like it doesn't belong, and it takes my eyes kind of drawn to the button even more than the sandwich, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to go in here, search for button again, and out comes this shape. So delete that. The font works nicely, so I'm going to keep this in. And this color, I can see that this color has been chosen to match the sandwich. So Canva also has a really good tool of reading any images that you put in and bringing out the color palette, which is, I find, a really great place to start with colors, and you can kind of tweak from there. So I can see that this one has gone in. I want to make it a little bit lighter, I think, just so that you can go, I think something like that maybe. And I'll match the button as well. And you can see now that we've got more contrast here. There was a drop shadow applied to the headline, but we can turn that off now because it's quite legible. And I notice now as well that sandwich font has more contrast to the background than the headline. So I might actually swap this over because the sandwich font is the secondary here. And the next thing I'm going to look at, I think, as well, is cleaning this up. So just to help focus and improve hierarchy again, I'm going to remove some of these little extra details. These ones here, we don't want to, it's an Instagram post, it's okay to have a CTA because you do want people to think order now, but it won't be a functional button unless it's a sponsored ad and you can have a click through. So we'll just remove the arrows around it so that it's still there, but it's not taking too much focus away from the product. So bring that up. It's starting to feel a little bit cleaner already, I think. Next, I want to look at these fonts. So I do really like this font. I think it does the job of speaking to food really well, but I'm just going to see if there's something similar that is a little bit more modern, a little bit more bold. I think one like this could actually work really well. This still feels really foodie to me, so I have to always remember what product I'm designing for, not just what I like the look of. So I think this ties in really nicely with what we're trying to sell, and and it's really bold and takes a lot of focus there, really easy to read as well. Another thing to consider, especially for social, is because people are scrolling through so fast, you need things to be able to be a quick get. So legibility of font becomes really important, and clear visuals become really important. So I might simplify this one up too, because generally what we do, a kind of rule of thumb in design is to have one feature font and then other fonts that are supportive to that font. So I think we can also use a sans serif for this one. Got this one here, which is quite nice. And then everything on this page is centered, except for this word. So I think I'm just going to keep along with that theme. Canva as well has margins that automatically are applied to all of your designs, which I find really helpful. You can bring them up if you go into File, Show Margins. And it helps you align everything in the center and within a certain width. So I'm going to change this to a sans serif too. This one I've got Allegria, so I'm going to match that. Allegria, but I'm going to make it regular because it's less important. So that's going to feel nice. I think this information down the bottom here as well, we can put into the post copy. It's not as important as the rest of it. We kind of want everybody to focus on all of this information here. So I'm going to remove those out. Just make sure everything's centered. I kind of want to tie in, I'm going to try something, bring this down. I kind of want to tie in the product and the headline a bit more. So, and create a nice focal point in the center. I'm going to try something and see if I can get them to look good overlapping. Send it back. You can either right click on elements to send back or send back to the back, or on your keyboard, if you hit Command and square brackets, you can cycle between layers. So I'll just knock that back. That's starting to feel pretty nice. Might just make this logo white as well to match everything else that's going on. Yeah, I feel like that's feeling pretty good. Maybe I might try a texture that feels foodie, maybe some grain. Maybe something like this. Try a different word, it's not quite what I'm after. Bring down the transparency because we want it to be quite subtle. And again, using those keyboard shortcuts, sending it to the back behind all our elements. And that's looking quite nice. I think that brings a bit of a dynamic feel, I think, layering textures like that, as opposed to just having a flat background. So they're a really good thing to play with, and definitely play with transparencies to see what you can create by layering different things up. So yeah, here we have our sandwich ad. I think I would stop at that if I'm scrolling through. And I think what makes it easier now, if we've got a simplified design, is we can easily duplicate this and add some more. So I'm going to pretend that I have a sandwich shop. Let's see what else. Find. Here, found one earlier that works quite well. Yeah, this one. Plate's not quite the right angle now, so I'm going to pop in one that matches the angle of the sandwich. Send it back. Give it a new name. So maybe this is fresh sandwich. Change all the caps. Give this one a different background so it has a little bit of a different feel. Maybe a nice green for this one. That's feeling pretty good, I think. Now these are looking like a set and part of a series that you could post over time, or you could post them even as a carousel in Facebook or Instagram. And we'll try one more. I might add in dessert this time. This is nice one. And then another tool that I love using in Canva is the magic background remover tool. So you just click on that. Life's so easy. I love this tool so much. Pop that in the center there. Get to my type here. I might just make this a color that's going to match this cake a bit better. So I think I might go with a pinky kind of color. That looks quite good. So I think that, yeah, I think this brings out the tones in the cake quite nicely, but still provides enough contrast for everything to pop off the page.
We have a question from Gloris, who was wondering how you would go about creating an animated or a bit of movement to that post.
Oh yeah, sure. Super easy in Canva. You have a few options here. One is to animate everything on the page. So if you click on the animate button here and then hover over things, it'll give you a preview of how things animate. So you'll probably find your favorite. I find that different styles will work for different brands. So for example, food, you might want a soft one like this, but maybe exercise gear, you would want something like this, which is very energetic. But this is a great way to just test everything out. And then how you can control it is a couple of ways. If you group things together, they'll animate as one block. So I might want to group my text and button together. The other option is if you click onto specific layers, so say just the cake, and then do the same thing, everything else will stay static and just the cake will. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun playing around with that.
For sure, I've definitely had heaps of fun playing around with animations. We also just have one quick question about the first design. And Alvin was wondering if the checkered background was an element or an effect.
This one here, I believe, is an element. So if you're ever looking in templates that other people have created, you can click on this little eye here and it will tell you exactly what it is, and it'll tell you what the keywords to search for it to come up, and you can look for other similar things like that. So yes, it's an element. It would be like an SVG style because you can change the color of it here.
Perfect, thank you. I think that's all our questions so far.
Amazing. So I'll just recap the before and after. So here we have the subtle changes to this more modern font, simplified the secondary fonts to be a nice sans serif. The CTA has been dropped down. The background we've just updated to give a little bit more contrast and yeah, make that sandwich pop. As a set, as well. You can see how easy it is to create a set that comes together really nicely. You've got your first set of social posts done in a matter of minutes. Once you've got your first one done, it's really easy to just change up your products, change up your colors, and it looks like a whole new design. Were there any more questions?
Oh, actually, we have one more just come in. So Pradesh was wondering how to add a shadow effect.
Also really easy in Canva. So I'll pop in a new shoe here. And we'll go with these ones. So have that selected, bring in all your effects. Basically, you'll find under edit image, there's a lot to explore here as well. So shadows is one of the options. And there's some different styles that you can try here. If we had this up against a wall, like this isn't too bad. This one would work as well. And if you click into it, you can adjust the settings. So that one might be a little bit too heavy. You can increase the blur if you don't want it to be as sharp. The offset will change its position in relation to the object. And then the curve as well, basically is your light point, editing where your light point is, so it changes how the shadow falls. And you can also change the color, which is really helpful as well. I often find that a solid black shadow can look a bit unnatural. So my tip a lot of the time, if say, for example, I'm on a purple background, I will just get a really dark tint of the purple instead. And it tends to look a little bit more natural.
Great, thank you. And it was a great tip when you said the purple tint. I didn't know that, so there we go. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. That wraps up our show for today. If you haven't already, make sure to join our Canva Design Circle Facebook group. I think we actually have over 170,000 members now, so it's a great place to ask questions, hear about new features, get tips and tricks, as well as feedback on your designs. So thank you, everyone, for joining.